Outrage after death threats were made against Niagara Region's top doctor. The medical community and political leaders are condemning violent and abusive language posted on social media against Dr. Mustafa Hirji, and experts fear that with anti-science rhetoric on the rise, threats like these will only increase. The photo of Dr. Hirji shared on Facebook demanding his termination triggered a slew of vulgar and violent comments, including one calling for his beheading. It was posted shortly after the province announced that Niagara would be moved into the gray lockdown level of the province's color-coded framework this week, the only region to be placed in the strictest level. Doctors across the province condemning the threats that have become all too familiar in the medical community.
Hirji, who's simply doing his job, trying to keep everyone safe during the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to save as many lives as possible, is now having to face these racist death threats.
While all retail stores can reopen in the gray level under strict capacity limits, most other businesses will remain closed. Dr. Hirji, who wasn't available for an interview today, said he advised the region move to the gray category to protect as many lives as possible and to prevent another lockdown and a third wave.
Of course, we have the right to peaceful disagreement in our society, but these type of death threats and which undoubtedly are grounded in racism and Islamophobia have to be countered immediately and must be stopped.
Shortly after threats surfaced, an outpouring of support and solidarity, with the hashtag #WeStandWithDr. Hirji trending on Twitter. The Prime Minister tweeting, "I am outraged to hear threats have been made against Dr. Hirji. This rhetoric is unacceptable and I strongly condemn it." The Premier also sharing his thoughts, tweeting, "There is absolutely no place for these kinds of threats in Ontario. Cut it out." But experts say it is not the first time, and unfortunately it won't be the last, that threats plagued doctors during this pandemic.
I have faced some harassment through Twitter. I've had many colleagues who have unfortunately had to face sort of similar scenarios on social media, and it can be quite terrifying and scary. And that's something which we just cannot allow, and we must put a stop to.
I'm finding as this pandemic draws on, there's a lot of anger being directed at anyone that's got a public profile related to this pandemic. So nobody feels the other side is completely objective, but we have to have open discourse. We have to have civility and we have to have transparency. It's the only way we can do this.
Niagara Police says they are investigating the threats, and late last night Dr. Hirji did share his thoughts on Twitter. He wrote that he is deeply humbled by the volume and breadth of support, and more importantly gratified that so many are speaking up against violent language. He also adds, "In this together" has been a slogan of the pandemic. He hopes we can all return to that ethos. Violent threats, political attacks, denigrating those who disagree splinters us rather than unifies us. Let's listen more, understand each other, and come together through dialogue. For City News, I'm Tina Yazdani.